Man, listen, $1.8 billion that has to be paid. Why is it being paid? You remember a few years ago, whenever everyone was trying to take advantage of the housing market, it was a scramble. You would look on Facebook and you would see people saying, this house just went on the market and this house just went for 50,000 over ask. This house went on the market and it just went 100,000 over ask. And I remember seeing all the papers flying from here to there to there. And I was saying to myself, man, somebody's making some money. Somebody's making some real money. And so today I'm going to have a conversation with two real estate investors. One of them who's actually involved in the actual home sale industry as a licensed professional, and they're going to talk to us about what exactly this means right here, because it's $1.8 billion. Now, why do they have to pay? Does that mean that they were guilty? Can they actually say that they were doing discriminatory practices, or are they just going to say we've settled this? That doesn't necessarily mean that we were actually liable in this situation. So without further ado, we're going to bring up the first brother to the channel, the Intentional Millionaire. Tim, how's it going, man?
What is going on, Sim? How's it going?
Man, doing good. Listen, man, $1.8 billion, man. That's real money, Tim. What do you think about this whole idea of this settlement being reached, while at the same time, it seems like the rug was pulled from underneath all buyers in the future for all opportunities for real estate? What do you think about this? Is this something that you see as a good thing in your first opinion, just at first glance, or is it something different?
At a first glance, I think it's all calculated strategy. I think one is to keep people focused on the real estate industry as a whole. That's one. I think two is to show the shakeup that's about to happen. That's three. And then four, I think because, and I'm going to keep going back to this concept of, I think because the Tax Act of 2017 is about to expire. So because it's about to expire and the housing market is kind of all over the place, as far as interest rates go, affordability for most middle income families, I think this is going to be a segue into possibly some major tax changes that's about to come down the pipeline as it relates to the real estate industry. You muted.
Wow, I want you to elaborate on what you regard as the things that are coming down the pipeline as a result of the 2017 legislation. Because I'm not gonna lie, man, my tax bill has went up, man. It's like in the last few years, Uncle Sam has been getting a check from me when it's time to file taxes, and I've been saying to myself, hold up now. Now I know I'm paying the most taxes that I can pay on my paycheck. Why is it that I still owe Uncle Sam? And what you're talking about right there with that 2017 tax bill, that's precisely the reason. So yeah, I really want to hear your take on that here in a second. So we're going to bring up our next brother to the channel, a real estate professional, someone who's also invested in various different aspects of real estate, but he also is involved in the home sales transactions himself. So I want to really hear what he has to say about this and if he thinks this is a good look.
Yo, what's up?
So, hello, Perry. So what you think, man? $1.8 billion, man. Does that mean that is 1.8 even close to the amount of money that was made in the last few years, though? Or what do you think, Perry?
So I like a lot of what Intentional Millionaire said. Ultimately, though, I don't think much is going to change, to be honest. And I'll elaborate, throughout the stream. But I think minor changes probably to the overall amount that I think realtors make, and regardless of size or side of the transaction. I think minor changes to that. But I think overall, I don't see much change, to be honest. I think a lot of this really sounds good, but at the end of the day, a product still has to be distributed. And it's not a simple product either. I mean, the truth is now some people do feel comfortable going and doing their own real estate transactions, but I don't really know anyone who's comfortable with that. Certainly the first time around, you know, maybe an investor or something, it's a little bit different. Try to do a transaction on your own, but there's a couple things that I think are going to keep this from really changing, like a lot of people anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild, right? So you're saying you don't think anything's going to really change that much. So
A subtle changes is ultimately, I think there'll be subtle changes. You know, at the end of the day, let's just say that it's been standard, right? Has been 6%, right? But you could always negotiate. That's the thing. You could always negotiate. That has always been that way. But standard for the full real estate transaction, the sale, it's been pretty much stalled that hey, it's 6%.
but in the same vein, though, the 3% or the negotiable rate is no longer coming from the seller side now. Now it's being forced upon the buyer to come up with those funds over and above the down payment, over and above the earnest money, over and above the inspections and all the due diligence practices that need to be followed prior to even purchasing the home. So, in your opinion, do you think that this is going to lean the market overall in the direction heavy on the seller side, or is it going to be heavier on the buyer side, or do you think that it's going to just stay the same?
I'm glad you laid that out just like that. All those things you said that the buyer's going to have to figure out, not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. The thing about real estate that still is the seller has equity. If it weren't for that equity, right, the seller in many cases would have no money. We know people living, house poor. So there's a reason in the first place why the seller would be expected to pay. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, buyers are not going to have extra money. There's just no way. They're not going to. And people aren't going to run around doing it for $1,000 either. They're not going to. Because then everybody's just going to start fighting, which people already wanted to be on the selling side of it to begin with, because you control everything. So what's going to end up happening is it's just going to they're just playing musical chairs. What's going to happen is, and I'll use myself as an example. Just say I have no real estate. Say I know nothing about real estate. What's going to happen is it's just a shift in where it's happening, where it used to be, hey, 3% to me, it's 6%. I, as a seller, am going to take 3% and I will offer up 3% to the buyer broker. Now, people buying a home don't have that extra money. We already know that, especially with the cost of housing going up. I'm selling my house. I'm about to make $250,000, $300,000. What am I going to do? It's a contingency. Or if I don't want to, you're going to come in as a buyer with a contingency and say, okay, I'll buy it. The same way that people used to say you got to waive the closing cost. Well, I'm going to say, okay, well, you pay the buyer, you pay them, and we're going to put it under contingency instead of where it used to go. And it's going to be the exact same. Now, I believe the percentage will come down. I don't think it's going to be 6%. I think it's going to get a little bit harder. And there's realtors that haven't really been working. They're going to actually have to do some work, but it probably ends up being like 4%, maybe something like that, maybe 4 or 5 for the total transaction. But at the end of the day, you want me to buy your home? Well, okay, that's cool. Then you need to pay them this money, because I'm not going to go out here and try to figure it out myself, and I don't have the money. So if you want to sell your home, what are you going to do? Because last time I checked, you had $300,000 or $400,000 after this transaction, not me. That's the way that this thing's going to go, in my opinion.
Perry is saying the seller needs to still sweeten the pot. What do you think, Tim? Do you think that it's going to stay the same, or do you think that it's going to go cold on the buyer side? I want to know.
I think it's just going to do like anything. It's just going to evolve. It's going to evolve to what's going to ultimately make sense. I think that the real estate market is such a big market. And also I think because like Perry stated, the buyers want some level of being incentivized. So I think what's going to probably end up happening, the buyers, particularly agents, may come up with some type of way that they could do something to compensate the buyer, because ultimately from an agent perspective, depending on what side you're on, either way, you get a chance to win because you get a chance to get compensated. So ultimately, I think that it's just going to take some time for something to come out that's going to make sense. But I do think at some point something is going to change that's going to make sense. I just think it's just going to be the evolution.
So it sounds like, Tim, you're saying that we're going to start incorporating some of these iBuyer platforms or something like that to represent the transactions, or AI to handle our transactions, so we can make it more equitable for the buyer. Or you think that agents are still going to represent? You think that the buyer's agent is still going to represent the buyer, and they're just going to figure out a way to meet in the middle as well?
Yeah, that's what I think. I think agents just going to still want to be part of it, because I think agents still going to be thinking about the customer relationship they can have, because at some point they're going to become the seller. So I think that they're going to try to find a good common ground in the middle, at least starting out. Or I think that they may charge an upfront fee upfront from the buyers for them to represent them. But that may, based on the regulation, they may or may not be able to do that. But I think they're going to find some other way, even if it be indirect.
And here's one more piece. Now you can't do this in every state, right? But dual agency, where you can. Okay, so here's the deal. I'll come in and I'll do it. If I'm going to do it if I'm going to sell your home, then, I'm not going to split anything. I'm going to find a way to handle the whole transaction, to get a bit, to get a piece of the pie that way. So maybe you're negotiating with me, right? Because at some point, there's always cause and effect. So the way I look at it is, it's not just real estate, it's anything, right? We just don't know how everything will shake out for sure. But think about the NCAA, right? Because there's always been so much turmoil over athletes being paid. Now, what if these colleges all at the same time said, you know what? We're not going to pay you guys. We're not giving you a scholarship anymore. We already know the athletes can't afford it. So that's what I'm saying. People cannot afford. In as a whole, we know it's going to cause problems with demand. It's that. See, that's the issue, is when people are struggling to get a home already. Now you tell me I've got to come up with some percentage or something to pay the buyer's agent. The truth is, we know people don't have it. So what happens? Well, it drives demand down. The person who has the money no longer is putting up the money to make it happen. That's how a lot of people are able to do it in the first place, and why they use buyer's agents, because someone's paying for it. You take that away, it's going to have an effect on the demand, because people are already struggling. So I think the impact, the monetary, the implications money-wise are already an issue, from economy to everything else. So that's why I think there's going to be some cause and effect. And, it's just going to switch around in forms of contingency. And back to like the NCAA thing is, what would happen? Well, it would be this point where it's like, okay, well, we can't afford to come to school, so I guess there's no college football. Well, what happens? The NCAA is going to turn right around and say, well, I guess we better figure this out. So the buyer's going to say, well, I can not sell the home, or I can pay $10,000 to $15,000. Well, I personally will pay $15,000 to get my, $400,000, $200,000, whatever in equity. I will, so I can move on and do what I need to do. I'm just speaking from my situation. I mean, what are you going to do, right? If you can't get the demand, because we know that money, right? You're the one with 300,000. You don't want to give up 15. Okay. How many people have an extra 15,000? People are struggling to get 3% to put down.
The 3%.
How many got an extra 15? So that's why it falls back on the seller. It's one of those things. This is a perfect example. The perfect example is this. We know, why do people go? You can go to the ATM for free if you go to your own bank.
Right.
Why do people go to the ATMs in that funky gas station that's charging you $6? It's because you're in a situation where it's like, most of the time, if you're right beside your bank, you're like, I never pay that. It's all situational. Once you're in a situation where it's like, okay, if I got to put up 15 to get my 200 or even 100, that's 85 to the good, man, let me go ahead. And now that's where I do believe it's like, okay, well, if I'm not putting up 3. I'll give you 1.5, take it or leave it. So I think it's going to be a new negotiation type deal between the actual buyer, the buyers. It's just not going to be a negotiation between the selling agent and the buyer's agent, although they were just putting it on there anyway in general. But you could always negotiate that. But I just think it's a thing where now the buyer's agent is saying, hey, up front, what are we talking about? And that's going to even be weird because you're still going to be dealing with the seller's agent. So that's why I think it's still just going to show up in the form of contingencies in one way or another.
And I can't really speak to this because these are not transactions I'm participating in. But when I really hear about it, and I did take a real estate class some time ago and everything, I didn't know that it was completely negotiable. In the way it was presented to me, it was always a standard 6%, 3%. You could have what you're talking about, an arm's length transaction where you could be on both sides of the transaction, but it's you splitting up 6% with yourself essentially, and both people have to really trust that you're going to be able to fully represent both of them in the transactions without really leaning to one side more than the other.
Right.
I think that's really interesting. Now, why is it though? Why is it that this is being promoted as genuine opportunity for buyers to be left out to dry, and not really being represented at all? Because what Tim just set up here and said is that the people who are going to be hurt are the people who don't have the finances, like you said, Perry, the people who don't have the 3%. What does that mean? Does that mean that our marketplace is going to have an opportunity to really correct now because less people are going to be able to participate in the transactions? And now maybe our inventory can have an opportunity to stabilize. And I don't even know if the interest rate is going to go down at all.
Let me just say this real quick. It means we've talked about this before, whether it's BlackRock, whether it's Zillow, whether it's, they're the one that wins. We already talked about the issues that are there. They're the ones that win. Cause guess what? They got a team of people that work for them that don't need anybody. They have realtors working for them that they just pay a salary. I mean, here's the deal. All that money, they'll bring someone in. They'll bring someone in for 100,000 and say, look, you need to get this many transactions a month because we're going to be buying up homes because we don't have to worry about that money because the little man doesn't have the money anymore. Because that's what I'm saying. So it's just going to make it even harder for the average person to get a home. And I know we're talking, you want to say small amounts, but I mean, let's face it. A $300,000 home, you're talking $9,000. 600,000, you're talking 18,000. So it's just how many people have that type of money. And we already talked about the struggle that people are having just getting a house in general. So yeah, I think who wins, the corporate side wins more so just because once again, it's putting another obstacle in between the person who's trying to get the home.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how this legislation went through prior to them outlawing, the hedge funds from being involved in Main Street. I don't really see how those two didn't really happen at the same time, because these guys are the ones who have the losses. They can have loss leaders and everything like that in the books of business because they want to be able to do some capital gains harvesting or whatever it is. Tim, what do you think about the possibility of these investment firms using the real estate market as a hedge against some of the gains that they've had in the actual Wall Street marketplace. Do you think that there's a possibility that that actually took place?
Yes, because I think from a just from a tax perspective, I mean, they a company is able to write off the depreciation. They can write off a lot of it in the same years. So I think not only do they look at it from the standpoint of helping their books, but I also think they looking at the long-term effect of it. And then I still think that again, the ones that control the most real estate control the population, because the thing about rents is there's no real regulation on rents right now. So, I mean, they could win all the way across the board. So they can win from the standpoint of they got unregulated rents. They can win from the standpoint of, they can control the marketplace as a whole. They can also win. They can double dip because they can take some of their properties and put it as part of their investment profile as far as REITs go. So every possible way they can win 100% across the board. So I don't see why bit firms wouldn't be in real estate, to be totally honest with you. I mean, it's the ultimate leverage package for them because they get all the benefits.
I just thought about something as you were speaking. How likely is it that COVID and the lack of presence in commercial real estate forced these hedge funds to now pivot from commercial real estate to residential in order for them to still have an opportunity to get that monthly income? Because people are not going into the office at the same rate that they were. And with REITs, like you just pointed out, there's a mandate with REITs for the profit sharing to be done almost all the way up until you've depleted all of the profits, right? So the profits are generally shared at a higher rate in a REIT than inside a traditional investment agreement.
Yeah, 90% of the profits from a REIT has to go back to the investors. But for the company, it's benefit. And see, you have to know, you brought up a great point. That's why I believe that they really got into real estate, the big firms, is because when they realized that, okay, we had the mortgage moratorium, what's it called?
Yeah.
The rent forgiveness and all that fun stuff. Well, I think they realized they already pre-saw that there's nobody regulating rents. And look how rents sky high, and they jump astronomically.
$300 extra a month.
300, 500, some places $1,000. And they want part of that pie. So I look at it as they said they looked at two lenses, at least for me. This is what I think. I think they looked at two lenses. The lens of 2008, when it got too risky in the mortgage markets, the mortgage industry. But then they looked at what was currently happening pre-COVID, after COVID. So they say, how can we take the two and leverage the two? Let me get back into the real estate, but now how can I get the biggest bang for my buck? And how can I minimize the risk? I think they just took the two and blended them.
Okay. Perry.
Yep.
Who in the world is selling these hedge funds, these houses? That's my question.
Well, that's a really good question. I think that they're kind of getting it everywhere. I think they're getting anywhere, everywhere. I would, now I don't know that this is true, but I would assume that a lot of them is the bank. I mean, financial institutions can take care of each other. So I would assume, and here's the deal. It could end up being a little less overhead for the bank because, you got these real estate owned properties, and especially if you go through a time when you got a lot of them, and then you have corporate that can swoop in and just buy tons of them. I don't have to do one transaction at a time, which is time and money. So I would, excuse me, I would assume some of those, that's what that is. It's just they're going straight direct to these hedge funds and you know, and buying it that way. You know, so it's that's a piece of it, because you know, it's not like they're not just doing one off. But I think another piece is you still do have your traditional landlord fighting that fight as well, right? I mean, it's you know, they're not, I wouldn't say they're a problem at the same rate. And just something I saw, it says research found that more than 19,000 rental homes. 3 companies in Atlanta own more than 19,000 rental homes, which in the core counties in Atlanta, that's 11% of the single family. You know, that's 11% of the market. So, and then I saw something in 2022 said that institutions or corporations basically own 1/4 of all homes. That seems high to me, but hey, you know, that's what the I think it was CoreLogic maybe did a study. So
Yeah. So what you think, Tim? Who's selling these guys these properties? Because I live in the middle class neighborhood, and I don't know. I had to push back against what Perry's saying. These were not people who were struggling in order for them to get out of bad situations in the neighborhood that I live in. They were taking advantage of the high offer that they received from the hedge fund. So they went ahead and took it. But are you saying that middle America, are you saying that the average American person, we can say either during pandemic or now, they're willing to overlook the high offer from the hedge fund in order for them to stick it to the hedge fund and say, hey, you can't get my house because I want to hold it down and let another another person or someone who's a residential owner as opposed to an institutional owner to actually buy the house.
Let me just be clear. A part of what I'm speaking to was because we haven't seen that in a long time. I'm saying, you know, a lot of these hedge funds are still sitting on homes from years ago. So I'm talking about, you know, the time we went through last time. That's when a lot of those got swooped up more so, because we haven't really had defaults and stuff like that. But no, the average person, they don't care. They'll sell it. They're trying to get the highest price. They could care less about their neighbors. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't, because I'm not going to sell my neighbors out, but I'm just cut different. I'm not selling my neighbors out for 10, 20 grand personally. I'm not, but I'm not judging someone who is like, let me just get the money and go. I'm not, you know, to each their own. But yeah, when you sell your home, you're trying to get the highest price, point blank. But because I have a personal relationship with my neighbors, for me, matter of fact, there was when I say corporate, it's not a hedge fund, but there was a home in our neighborhood, and I knew it was corporate owned because I looked, man, the garage door was cracked open, maybe 15 inches, grass uncut, and then there was actually a light on in the garage, but I knew nobody lived there. Packages just kept showing up, just mounting up outside. And I was like, man, let me look up and see what's up. I already know, you know. And what happened is someone moved out, and then it's like an LLC or something. They just wouldn't. They just didn't care. So I know how much it upset my neighbors who lived on that side. It wasn't on my side, but I wouldn't want to do that to them. I just wouldn't want to. I think, but that's a little bit different, like I said. But most people, they're gonna take the money and move on. It just is what it is. So I don't have any different expectations than that.
Sam, what you think, man?
I totally agree with Perry. I don't think most people even care. They just gonna go with what can they get from the marketplace. Most people don't even discern or consider if it's coming from a corporation or not.
Mm-mm.
They just looking for, how can I get the biggest check when I sell? That's it. They don't care where.
We're not even supposed to know who's buying the house in the first place. So I don't even know what Perry's talking about, because you're not supposed to know who's on the other side of the transaction. So how would you even be able to say no?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you will.
That's what I'm saying. You really don't. You could try to find out. You don't know, but you wouldn't care anyway. My bad, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, I mean, you just go off of you're not supposed to know, but it's ways you can find out. I mean, if you do enough digging, you can find a lot of information nowadays. But at the end of the day, people don't care. I just think people just want to know how can I get the biggest check at the end of the day. So I don't think they're going to care if it's big corporations or not. And I think that's very clear, even when you think about, let's just go back to when we was having before the mortgage crisis, when Bank of America did the no down payment, you had to move in a certain neighborhood, that type of thing. People knew all of that information, but they still went with Bank of America because they were just looking for the easiest product or program that they can get in.
Well, I mean, in fairness, Bank of America has been paying restitution in the form of NACA and these other down payment programs that are supposed to help the disadvantaged people. But is it really the same exact thing? Discriminatory practices compared to you giving me down payment assistance, which you could potentially write off as, I don't know, as a loss or something along the lines of you just using that to hedge against the profits that you had for that given year. So did you even really lose anything if you're giving them consideration for their loan, saying, hey, instead of charging you 2.75, now we're going to charge you, 2.25 or something like that, half a point.
Yeah, but I'm speaking to more of the fact that they know Bank of America did some crooked, shady stuff. They know they name been in the front line on the front page for doing, uh, discriminatory type stuff, but people still go to them. That's the point I'm making. I mean, I don't think people really care at the end of the day. I think they say they do. I think it's normally good talking pieces, but when it comes down to just business, I think people just don't care. And I think their actions normally prove that.
There was a great question. Mr. Boyd said,
I can pull it up.
Yeah, how do you flip the script? And I want to speak to that real quick.
Yeah,
How do you flip the
Perry.
script on corporate giants, even if it's hypothetical? Well, here's the funny thing. That's very hard. That would be extremely hard because you got to think about it, especially when you talk about BlackRock. I mean, the government we got the government borrowing money from BlackRock, right? Essentially. So it's like, it's very difficult, but it's funny. I had a conversation with my mom today about, and I would love to debate with anyone on this. There's been a lot of talk about real estate, right? It's going to crash. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. What I ask anyone, if you're going to say that, what you got to prove is, how is supply going to change or how is demand going to change? If you don't have the answer, you're just pulling out your bottom. You have to be able to answer. The way that housing crashes, it's got to be a change to supply. It's got or demand. That's just simple. That's anything, right? So the way that I say what ties into to that for me is, now America is built off of people fighting back. The only way that I see it going where you could flip the script on them at this point, at some point, because we're reaching a point where people literally can't afford a house. They're not going to be able to afford a rent either. That is going to cause a problem to the economy. Ultimately, the economy failing is the best thing for everyone. And especially for your normal home buyer, that's the best thing that could happen to them. Now, you're going to have some hedge funds that would hold on to homes. But eventually, at the end of the day, when the economy tanks and people just don't have it and they start to fight back, it's going to have an effect. But it has to be an effect on the supply or the demand, one way or another. They can't build enough houses to fix the supply issue. Honestly, you just have to build and build and build. So the economy is what mostly affects demand. But here's the deal. That fall in prices ultimately, or defaults or whatever, would allow people to have the opportunity again, potentially, some of them, not all of them, because if the economy goes down, it affects jobs. But then at that point, because it's all about moving back and forth, when you have the opportunity, will you hold on to it? So the way that I look at it is, I think real hard on, as I buy this next house, do I let the one I got now go? Now, I don't want to let it go. Why? Because I don't want it going in hands like that. But it's just a very difficult thing to try to take down, to flip the script on it, because people just don't care. You're looking to sell a house, you sell it, and that number keeps on going up. And can you see a world where the average, can you see a world where 60% of Americans rent from corporate? That'd be a disaster. So,
yeah, I mean, we're not far away from it. We are not far away from it. Go ahead, Tim. What you think?
I think the best way we can flip the script, I think Perry just touched on it. We got to stop consumerism.
bingo.
See, we wouldn't even be in this problem right now with the economy if people still stop spending. But the more we keep spending, the more we are driving things up. We do have to know that. We got to stop doing the things like, because I just want a house, so I'm willing to overpay.
Yep.
We got to stop doing, because I feel like I need a new car, then I'm gonna go get a new car.
That part.
Yeah, see, all of that stuff is what drives all of this stuff that's happening in the background. That is part of the reason why they're coming in to purchase all this stuff. Because the same way how we saying rent is high, they continue to build new apartment complexes, and they continue to get populated. Matter of fact, they continue to get backlogged. So how is it we saying on one side everything is so expensive, but when they build a whole new complex that's overpriced, they backlog on tenants or applications
with all the amenities, right?
So we can't. So to me, we talking, the world society tend to talk hot and cold, meaning we say one thing but we do another. And I think that's the bigger issue. That's how we really can stop it. But until we stop consumerism, it ain't gonna matter no way.
I mean, the machine is fed by consumerism, though. You know, there's a lot of industries that would not be able to stand up if we really suspend all consumerism, you know?
Yeah, but when you do that, you force change. Think about it. Hold up. Think about it. Go back to the Great Depression. Everything changed when people weren't spending.
There were some people who,
because they had to do something. Now the government had to step in, and they had to start doing things to spark people to spend.
But there were people who were going shopping, man. They were shopping like it was a shopping spree. But just like you said, though, it was the people who were in position who had not been spending.
But they weren't the ones that drove when the government had to step in. That's my point.
Yeah.
See, if you even think about the 2008 crisis, the government had to step in because things had got bad. See, the only way the U.S. population like to feel things is when it get bad. If it ain't bad enough, oh, so be it, business as usual. That's just the reality we in. So right now, BlackRock and everybody buying up everything. It ain't a big deal. We still overpaying for rent. We still overpaying for housing. So as long as we still doing it, who cares? I mean, really, who cares?
Yeah, the other piece is stay away from what the government's offering you, period. BlackRock's not taking government deals or whatever. They've got the money. They're buying it. So student loans, hot mess. Why? Government's involved. Housing, hot mess. Why? Government's involved. Anything they're involved in is a mess. So that's a telltale sign. When the government says, hey, we're going to do this to make this easier for you, you run like hell. Tell me something that they have done that for that hasn't been a disaster. Even if you want to talk about the pandemic and giving out the stimulus. Okay, that's cool. But what do you think got us to where we're at right now? Just keep on giving away money. We were talking about this years ago, how this craziness was going to cost us. And now people let $1,000 keep them from getting a home. $1,000 that you went out or held on to or flipped, put in Shiba Inu or whatever, now is the reason why you can't get a home, because that's a part of it. It's not all of it, but that is part of the reason why a 3.5% interest rate turned to 7. Now, there's other reasons, supply chain and other stuff that happened to the economy, but ultimately, just those things are just bad ideas. And that's the thing, the true thing about how you combat this. Let's face it, and this is not to crush dreams. You got to look at your age at this point and say, look, I got to do this for the kids, because I'm not getting this house. I mean, with what it is right now, I mean, unless you're going to start a social media page and hit a lick. I mean, if you don't have the skill, it's like, I don't want to put an age on it, because I believe people can do anything, but you got to get real and say, look, if you went, you went this many years, no skills, chilling, and now all of a sudden you want a home, you better start trying to prepare the kids. And that's keeping them away from any form of debt, period, and helping them get their skills up from the day they're born on, trying to focus on that. Because some people, they've just missed their mark. I hate to be the voice of doom and gloom, but you just got to start to look at the numbers. And, and this brings me to a question I actually have for you guys, because I'm really been looking at this, and it pertains to housing. We talk about Dave Ramsey, right? And we talk a lot about his formula. Now, I actually believe what Dave Ramsey talks about. I'm a firm believer in that. But I got to looking at his deal. Have you guys looked at the numbers when he talks about don't go into a home unless it's 25% of your take home, and a 15-year mortgage? Man, he must want people that make real good money living in crack houses. It's not even realistic anymore. It's literally not even realistic. It's not. And I'm talking about really good people that make good money would not be able to live in certain, I mean, I'm just saying regular parts of the city. It's a hot, to say 15-year mortgage, it's not even realistic anymore. It's hard enough for people now to even be able to get, and I'm in Atlanta, right? I'm not even in a crazy market. It's hard for people. I mean, you tell somebody to do 30 years and only 25% of take home, they'll look at you like you're a fool, let alone 15. That formula, that's going to have to be revamped, man. When you look at the numbers, if people really want to get a home, I'm not telling people to do different. I'm just saying, I don't know if he's looked at those numbers lately. Like, what do you want people to live in?
I think he's out of touch, man. But there should be a cap on the things that he can really speak to, because that's something that's more so boots on the ground and not just like a generic theoretical concept that can be applicable to all scenarios. I've even seen callers that actually called him and broke down exactly the exact circumstances, and you could see him getting stumped for a second because he didn't really have a response for it, though.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tim? You're muted. I said, what do you think about the Dave Ramsey? And I'm gonna pull it up here in a second. The exact breakdown that Perry was talking about. Give me a second, real quick. What do you think? Do you think that Dave Ramsey's concepts relate as far as the real estate strategy and what he thinks that you should be considering whenever you're looking at a home?
I think some of it is outdated when it comes to that. I think if you sit and wait that you have to pay your house off, and had cash to buy, I think that most people probably wouldn't own a home, because I think that the reality is most people have spending problems. If you follow his philosophy, yes. But you still got to know, though, it's going to be a major time requirement. One, and then I think his model is still built around dual incomes. And for single people with one income, that is definitely not going to work. And I think that most people still got a problem with consumerism. I just think that's that's the basis of it. And until you get a hand on just the basic of understanding how to value your dollar, understanding how to save and invest your dollar, understanding how to not lose your dollar to debt. Until people do that, I just think it's going to be hard for Dave Ramsey to seem Dave's Ramsey philosophy to seem real. I do think it absolutely worked for a dual income household. I do think with a dual income household, if both people are in sync, I do think that they could easily pay a house off. Now, within the current markets, I think it could be a little bit more challenging just based on the income and the interest rates. However, I still think it's doable.
Okay. So here we go. So we're gonna pull it up right here. The breakdown. Hey guys, let me know if the screen should not be yellow. It should be the right color. All right. So we're gonna talk about what Perry's sharing with us. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. You guys should be able to still hear me. Oops, wrong screen. All right. So here we go. All right. So what he's saying you can do is figure out 25% of your take home. So let's say that you make $60,000, right?
I got some numbers for you.
Go ahead.
I mean, if you want to just look at it, I mean, well, you could do 60, right? But if I did, let's do 100,000 just to show you how, because that's over. We know people aren't making that, right?
Okay.
So that's 2,500 a month.
Well,
so I say no. Let's do around actual 60, something a little bit more reasonable.
Fair. And then I like that because then you're going to see that even 100,000 is a little wild. I mean,
right,
honestly.
But I was gonna say, I was gonna mess with your parents and say, because we don't want to do like everybody on the internet make 100,000.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Okay.
You're right.
Okay. All right. So you said that. So they're making 60,000, right? So 60,000 times 30%. Man, I can't even pull up my calculator, guys. Hold on.
So 60,000. You said.
I need to do 30%.
He said 25%. Sim.
Yeah, 25%.
No, hold up. 60,000 is gross, man. Hold on.
Oh no, we just didn't know if you're trying to get the taxes or get the take home. We thought you were doing 60,000 take home.
No, man, it's 60,000 at the beginning, man. Come on,
no, that's
not
fair.
rich, man. This is middle America. All right, 60.
But I thought he said 25% of their income of their.
No, he said. So the thing is, 25% of your take home is what Dave Ramsey says.
Okay,
Yeah,
take home.
Take home.
All right.
25% of your take home. So I have my calculator in my hand. Okay, so we have 60,000. So let's say we're doing bad out here. So we're going to pay 30%.
No, it's more like 24% in that that tax bracket. I think it is.
Yeah. All right. 60,000, 24%. All right. 24%. Okay. So that's 14,000, right? 14,000 off the top. So 14,400. So 60,000 minus 14,400, right? That's 45,600. We're going to divide that. What you want to do? You want to do 25% of our take home, right? So we're going to do 25% of 45,600, right?
Right.
Times 25%. That's 11,400. All right. So figure out what's 25% of our take home. So 25% of middle America's income is 11,400, right? Never pay more than 25% of your monthly take home pay after taxes on your monthly mortgage, right? So let's do that right there, right? So that's 25%, 11,400 divided by, we'll say 12, right? $950 per month. Oh, hold on, Dave.
Yo, I'm laughing because that's so wild.
Dave, you're out here lying to me. Oh my God.
Yo, but I'm laughing because it's so wild, man. I'm shocked by the number, but here's the other piece. Just to make it even more interesting, I went ahead and did 100,000, and I already figured it out. So 100,000, your take home is essentially about
$70?
no, you know what? I don't even know if I did. I don't even know if I did take home. That'd be even more scary.
Yeah,
Actually
yeah.
should be between 75 to 70,000
In that
for take
neighborhood.
home.
Yeah.
To be yeah, you're right. 75,000 is a good 75,000 is a good number.
All right.
So
75.
when you go 75 times 0.25,
18,750.
so divide that by 12. Hold up, would it be by 12?
Yes, well.
So it's saying, yeah, so don't spend more than 1,500. Oh man, I put too much juice on it. I didn't do it's gonna be ugly, man. It's gonna be like, look, if you bought it, look, if it was 2,000, well, I'm just gonna make it you're pretty much you can't even get it, you can't even get a $200,000 home. I'm having to keep going down. That's what I'm saying. The number
gentrifying.
The math doesn't it don't add up. So basically, you would be slightly over, but $180,000 home. Making $100,000 a year, you can get a $180,000 home. Now, I can tell you this. There is not a city around me except for a trailer park, and I'm dead serious. I look at the real estate every single day. There, other than a trailer park, which you don't even own the land, you have zero chance. You couldn't get something for that. You couldn't get something for less than 200 or 300. I mean, you couldn't. Last time I looked, I think I saw a couple houses for less than 400,000 around where I live. So it's like the numbers aren't realistic now. And that's and I used a 6.7% interest rate put in there. I don't know if it's that low yet. And that's on 15 years. That's why you had to think 15 years is crazy. So even if you have a $200,000 home, $200,000 household should not have more than a $360,000 home.
Hold on. Now, Perry, that's so the calculator, and I need to find a mortgage calculator.
And that's what I've been using is the one from
which
I don't know if it's Bank Rate or.
All right. So the mortgage calculator that I saw said that if you make $65,000, you can buy a house for $365,000.
Oh yeah, and you could be flat broke, straight broke. Yeah. Now here's the deal. That's the thing. Yes, you can. If you go according to the bank's debt to income ratio and what they allow, that's a whole different story. Then we're talking about, I want to say, I don't know, Tim, you may know it, but we're talking about probably 30. I don't know if it's 38%. It's a lot. I can't remember the ratio. 35. See, we're talking about a way higher, but if you have any type, well, that's putting you at risk anyway. It could be, but certainly if you have debt, oh man, that's why that's exactly why cars become such an issue. When you got the Beamer that's $800 a month. I mean, think about it. This according to him, right? According to Dave, if you could do his plan, I think it's great. I think the issue that I see is, you guys, all you got to do is type in $180,000 home Atlanta. You look at it. You look at that home and tell me if you're making 100,000, you want to live there.
We're gonna look right now. We're gonna look right now.
Yeah, just look. Put a $180,000 home Atlanta and watch it pull up.
Do you need to have a bulletproof?
And this goes back to consumerism, because remember, look what people were getting. See, we just came from a place where that would have got you a $3,000 a month or $3,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? Or you would have gotten double the house. So you would have $360,000 home 2 years ago. So that's what's changed, is now it's doubled, and people are used to the old school. You know, they're used to what it was. Well, there you go. You could definitely live in a complex, but there you go. $174,000 home. That's what you're looking at. I mean, this is what you're looking at.
Let that AC unit go out.
So the question is
I can already tell you the electrical bill is high over here too. I can see
now. Does someone that makes $100,000 home?
Man, they didn't even want to paint it. Come on,
I mean, it's not even.
guys.
It's not. Dave. You gotta. There's a rap song. He's like, we just we update our formulas. It's Gangstar Guru. He's like, we gotta reevaluate or update our formulas. That formula is not.
Okay, what about this right here? What about this?
Something's wrong with it. There you go. I knew it. Hannah. I didn't even see it.
He said, "What's wrong with it? It's been in the fire."
I knew it. Hey, when I could not see it from afar, but you said, "What about this?" And I was like, "What it looks like right now, something's wrong with it." And it ain't got no guts is the problem.
That thing been in a fire.
Yeah, that thing's been straight up in a fire. But that's what you can get. This is what if you know, basically we'll just say what making $80,000 will get you this, a burnt up house. On 15 years it will.
But to be fair, I think one thing we got to make sure we consider in the numbers is Dave uses your net income. The market tend to use your gross. The problem I always had was the market tend to qualify you for a loan based on your gross, but you don't spend gross. You spend net. And that's always made it made you house rich, pocket poor.
Mark my words. You know how they're going to fix this? 50-year mortgage, 100. That's how this is going. That's how they're going to fix the housing problem. They're going to come up with some 100-year mortgage where you never pay it off, and you just never pay it off. You just have a mortgage just to keep it. And here's the thing: you're already paying triple in interest in the cost of the home already. Man, you'll be putting $3 a month towards the principal. You'll never own that home. Never. That's the way they're going to try to fix this. The bank is going to package it up, some new pretty, don't let such and such stop you from owning your home. You deserve it. And they'll offer you some new deal of 50-year mortgages, 60, 70. The same way cars. I mean, it used to be crazy for people to do 5 years. Now, I heard they got 10 and 12-year car loans. How many people are driving their car for 10 years?
Perry.
It's crazy. What? Jeez, have mercy. It's not even realistic, yo. Here's the thing. That's why Dave, I think it's important for him to really, I know, because I'm a lot like Dave. This is matter of fact, this is it. But Dave's got to be real. You can't tell someone that makes 100,000, this is what you get. They'll slap you because that's not what they're accustomed to. Someone making 100,000 is used to a $500,000, $600,000 home, and Dave's telling them to get this. They didn't even take the clothes out of it.
They didn't even take the stuff off the counter,
man. Making $100,000.
That's not right, man. That's not right, yo. Like
clean refrigerator.
You're making Atlanta look bad for real. Like, come on, guys. Like, why did you even take pictures, man? It's like it's sabotage, man. It's like
it's wild.
Get in the pool.
Yeah, and what's the square footage on that? What was the square footage?
Like 1,100.
1,132, man. Like their apartment's bigger than that. It's just to me.
Yeah, it's wild. But that just goes to show you, and because I really thought long and hard about that, and I want to reiterate that. No, this is not what people are not doing. What Dave said, right? People are going and spending. There you go. That's 35,000.
I want to see.
Now, I'm gonna be real with you though. If you do your homework, this is actually how you might be able to come up.
I see water damage right there.
And never mind. Like I said, do your homework, but little things like this might be your only chance to come up. Is buying little stuff, but you got to be careful because this is like a part of a complex. It's a lot more deeper than that. But yeah, it's just I know exactly where it's at. There's a good wing spot over there.
The roof is leaking too.
Yeah, see, this is but you know, you can make good money if you know what you're doing. You can make good money off of stuff like that. I'd just be concerned with it depending on the area and it being attached to someone else's home. If they got a problem, you got a problem. So, so there's a lot more to it.
I I've never seen a gas pipe that went through the cabinet before.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an old setup.
yeah, that is an old setup.
Because that means it's probably got a gas stove.
Yeah, they added that because I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's. I have no clue. I don't even know if it's code to run gas lines open like that.
They normally need to be behind the wall.
Yeah,
or
behind the wall, not just run it through a. See, that's a. Yeah, so but that goes to show you is like we do have. Look at that carpet, my goodness gracious!
It's the original carpet, man.
Yeah, we know where the bed was. I mean, everywhere else, not the bed is.
We know where they put their feet when they first landed off the bed. The feet touch down precisely right there.
Yeah.
I hope they had some slippers on.
And that's not their bare feet.
Oh my goodness, man.
Woo.
Look like they had a copper shampoo.
I can see them
Look
right
at the
now.
shampoo lines.
I can see them right now with the robe and the slippers for real. Hey, look at the fan. The fan is blue.
The blinds blue.
Oh, hold up. The fan has the bulbs have like a blue hairnet on there.
Yeah, that's
that was custom made.
Yeah, that's wild though. I mean, just think about where we're at. I mean, we've entered another territory. And here's the deal. I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole, but this is so funny about that. Because nothing wrong with making 100,000, obviously. But that's what's so even wrong with just the idea of being fixated on simply 100,000. We don't talk about investments. We don't. When you showed that picture, I thought something was crawling across the floor. You know, it's just not even realistic. And here's the deal: when you take those numbers and even you go to a 30-year, you're not living in mansions here, right? So that's the thing that people aren't, being realistic about when you really look at it. So just that mythical figure of 100,000, man, if you don't have your finances together, even in today's world and where we're headed, 100,000, it's not spectacular. I mean, it can be great if you've got it together, but if you're living like the traditional person, it's not anything special.
You know,
it's all about how you manage it and how you maintain it.
You know, back to this formula with Dave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does he say? Now we barely could get away from this whole 25% of your take home, right?
Right.
So we have the 25% of your take home. He wants us to use the mortgage calculator. He wants us to take the house price and divide it by 180 months, right?
Right.
And then he wants you to make sure that you know that you got to don't forget the grown-up stuff. Home insurance. If you put down less than 20%, you need to do PMI, private mortgage insurance, right? Fees
right.
to the that are fees paid towards your monthly payments, right?
Right.
Whatever, right? And so he says, don't forget to factor in closing costs, right? It's like, remember that infomercial on QVC? My God, QVC. But wait, there's more, right? So now he's sitting up here telling us there's also, don't forget to factor in closing costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, all right, don't freak out, guys. He says, but there's a down payment isn't the only cash you'll need to save up to buy a house. There's also closing costs to consider, right? And then you have the appraisal. These are the things we were talking about: appraisal, home inspection, loan origination, credit reports, definitely attorneys, property tax, and insurance. So, you know, I don't know what demographic Dave is referring to, but if we continue to listen to his rhetoric without considering that these are the opportunities that people are getting. Now, I'm hoping this one does not have clothes that are just sitting on the counter, right? Let's see. It's active right now.
I can look at it. Let me see something. Let me see where the address is real quick. I just want to see that.
Baker's Ferry, Southwest.
All right. Well, I hope that corner over there on the right is there's a pole under it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope there's something under that right corner, if you know what I'm saying, where there seems to be part of the house levitating.
Where, on the right side?
Yeah, click on that.
I can't, man. This is the only house. This is the only picture. It's like they took
look at it. It ain't got nothing under it.
Hold on. Where?
Something ain't right.
No, dude.
That's a carport. That's why I said I hope something's over there.
That looks like a carport.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I just wanted to make sure.
All right. Okay, hold on. So, come on, Perry. You being disrespectful, man, about the A. Hold on. Let me see. A condo, a 900 square foot condo, guys. What about a 900 square foot condo? You could do that. 200,000. I mean,
nah, you know what? I'd be better in that case. I'll just tell you that's how my apartment when I moved to Atlanta was 998 square feet, granite countertop, everything brand new, and I paid. No, I'm sorry, it was bigger than that. It was about 1,098 square feet, and I think I paid $900 a month or something. So it's like at that point, you might be better with some apartments.
200,000, man. That's up there. But I mean, shout out to them. They got the stainless steel is clean. I just think that person that took the pictures of that house with all the stuff in it they were just being disrespectful, man.
But remember though, the other thing is all these are in Atlanta.
Why didn't
people
they just
live in the suburbs, man? So it's like where it's way more expensive. So this is if you want to live in Atlanta and try to commute out and be in the car all day long. Like, so it's like there's a lot to that. There is a lot to that. Being able to do that, you know. I mean, look at the match, man.
Hold on.
Is that staged? Did they stage that home?
Hold on. Let me get to this comment real quick.
That's wild.
Tam says she's not staying in the SWAT. So come on, Tam. Listen. Tam. Come on now. You know, you can't be choosy now. I'm curious. Now, let me see. I don't know if let's get us off the screen. Now, this is disrespectful, man. Why in the world could they not just show the room empty? Why do they have to have the air mattress? These guys are shady, man. Why?
Hey, you want me to tell you why?
Don't tell me it.
No, I'm gonna tell you why.
It shows better with the air mattress, so you can see what a queen size bed looks like in the room.
Hey, let me tell you why. Because once that lawsuit happened, and the commissions went down, you get an air mattress in a room with a dirty carpet. This is wild, man.
All kinds of disrespectful, man. All kinds. I mean,
oh my goodness, man, it's crazy.
That's messed up, man.
It is disrespectful though. You're not even playing, man.
You should have just deflated it. There's a closet right there. Deflated it, put it in the closet. Just let it show as an empty room. That's it. And then people can just envision a kid's room or something, man. But
I'm with you, man.
Full blown disrespectful, man. I mean, the bathroom looks good. It looks like somebody did it not too long ago. Oh man,
goodness, it's crazy, man. But that's what people are. If people are being honest, I mean, this is where things are getting. I just don't think people are trying to be honest about it. I mean, you know, I just don't think people want to be honest. But this is where things are going. So it's gonna be. There's gonna be rough times ahead. Is all I'm saying.
Perry, I used to deliver appliances, so I see a lot of things.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've seen a lot of things. Now, this is something that's really interesting right here. So this is a bedroom right here.
That's a bedroom?
Tam, come on now. Now you're saying it's a man. It does look like a man. It does look like a man. That's a bedroom right there, dude. That's a bedroom.
With the washer and dryer in it.
I mean,
man.
And it's got a closet too. It's got a closet. It's got a window. It's a bedroom.
It's rough, man. But that's where we're at now, man. And another air mattress. I
Come
can't, man.
on,
This is
man.
wild. This is wild.
200,000, man. This is so disrespectful, man. It's like
They just don't care. That's all. They just don't care. I mean,
all right,
that's no work was done. No work was done whatsoever.
all right.
Just
Here we go. This is what I see
air
right
mattress
here.
in there.
So now, because I did appliance delivery, now I got questions. Now I got real questions.
Oh, they got two appliances. Well, they had two in there,
There's a washer and dryer,
and then there's a stack one, right?
and there's a stack set right here.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that's part of a throw in to drive interest.
Yeah, man. No shade, man. I mean, they have a condo, so shout out to that, man. But you
Man.
know, I don't know, guys. You know, there's some interesting statements that we missed here, and I just want to cover this right here. So, Mr. Boy asked, "What's a hedge fund?" The hedge fund is where Wall Street funds are being used. Institutional funds are being used in various different securities, whether it's the real estate market or it's in, could be private equity, it could be Wall Street, just all the different spaces. Essentially, it's where there's a fund manager and they're dictating what happens out there. Tim, what's your textbook definition of what's a hedge fund? You're more in the finance space than I am.
A hedge fund is just a group of investors pool money together, and they take that money and they either buy businesses, they revamp businesses and sell them. But it's just basically a pool of money to go out and do some type of service with said money. And normally it deals around business, it deals around the investment space, and it's highly regulated in some aspects, but it's not regulated in other aspects. And normally hedge funds is normally designed around people that's accredited investors, sophisticated investors, and qualified investors. So, and those different investors just means that they have a certain amount of net worth.
Yep.
Yeah. Big money. So yeah, there's I've just seen in the last few years, I've seen private equity money even just flowing here in America from like the Middle East and stuff like that. So yeah, so I see Tim, I see. But so yeah, but I just want to cover this real quick, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So yeah, we discussed this right here that living together is really the play. We talked about this in the last stream. Living together is probably like the cheat code at this point, because the idea of you having a $1,400, $1,500 apartment payment just doesn't really make sense. If you can take that and you can do it in the house, and then you guys can accumulate some equity in the meantime, you can really make it happen. And if you question anything that we're saying, just look at some of the wealthiest people in this country and how they actually accumulated their wealth. A lot of them deployed this specific strategy in order for them to be in the situation that they're in, even to the point of graduating from college, living with their family in order for them to save up money, and then moving from the family home into an investment property, right? So Tam says that she's gonna feed the machine. Seriously, yeah. So shout out to Tam. Tam runs the channel Women in Linux. She talks about these exact finance concepts, and she talks about, really people putting themselves in position in order for you to make more money in the tech space, leveraging that income in order for you to put yourself in position to do exactly what Tim was talking about, in order for you to become an accredited investor and for you to be on the inside of these deals ahead of the average man, exactly what these hedge funds do right here, right? So we talked about that, and salute to everyone that came through in the channel. I mean, on the chat, Mr. Boy, JT Coin Rings, Ine, Tam, And I appreciate y'all coming through. Tam was being shady. That this place definitely looked like a man staged it. But I mean, I don't know. To have 2 air mattresses, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. So
That's wild.
that is wild, wild. And so yeah, the name of the channel is Women in Linux, Linux, Women in Linux. So she talks about everyone, not just women. She talks about everyone putting themselves in position to get this tech money. She specifically speaks to what you need to do in order for you to put yourself in a winning position, taking advantage of some of this government funds. The infrastructure bill has a lot of carve outs to create opportunities for American citizens to put themselves in position to get some of this money that's coming from the infrastructure bill. We're already paying for it, so why not benefit from it? So I want to go ahead and we'll go ahead and wrap up. And Tim, what do you think, man? So you think that there's any hope for the buyers out here after this NAR legislation or settlement? So
do I think it's hope? I think it's hope, but I think it's hope based off of what the consumer does. So I think people need to stop overall being spenders, stop consumerism, go out, take that time, that energy, go gain some new skills. And then once you gain some new skills, start getting your money up, then start learning about how to manage and maintain the money, and then go out and start getting more investments. And have fun doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
reward yourself in the process. Make goals, hit the goal, then reward yourself.
And you have an opportunity to be associated with people like we have here. You know, the Perrys, the Tims and Tam. We have these finance conversations, and really, why not have these finance conversations? Like, we work every single day in order for us to have money. Why not put ourselves in position to understand exactly how we can deploy our funds and make them benefit towards our real goals? So what do you think, Perry? You think there's any hope out here for the buyers in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is hope. I think the market, the market in general does kind of self-level, if you will. Like I was saying earlier, it's really all it's really all supply and demand. But I think people have to really start taking a serious look at what's happening around them and adjust to it, because ultimately, man, things are not, really going the way that people online are suggesting. There's this mindset of abundance and everybody has it, and oh, it's good. You can fake the funk, but at the end of the day, what you do is going to show up, right? So I do think there's hope, though. That's the thing. There is hope, but people have to make better decisions. And I hope that, although, we looked at some of those houses and stuff, I just hope that gives people an idea of what we're really talking about. Like those homes that we looked at, those homes, I mean, that was really based on, and that was based on what Dave Ramsey said. But even so, even if you go with what they will allow you as far as debt to income ratio, as far as lenders, what you can get is just not what it used to be. You got to remember, you're paying double what you used to on the interest rate. So it's just very important to remember that. And I think it's important that people see that image. And quite frankly, look, some of those houses right there, back in the day, if that, I would have lived in one of them if that's what it took to own my own home. I mean, where I come from, it's like, it is what it is. I didn't grow up really with much, so it wouldn't make me a difference. But the thing is the lifestyle people have gotten accustomed to, looking at that now is a different story. That's the thing, is like people have gotten accustomed to having way more. So now the idea that they'll peel it back and be able to do it on a 15-year, it's wild. But yeah, there's still hope. People just have to make better decisions. And the buyers will still find a way to buy homes, because here's the deal. If a buyer can't buy, then a seller can't sell. and the market will adjust accordingly.
Yeah, so that wraps us up right there, you know. So I think that it's really, really good when you have people who are in the industry, they're both on the buy side and involved potentially on the sales transactions as well, who can really speak to this right here. You know, this is turning out to me to really look a lot like the haves and have-nots, you know, and along the lines of what Tim was saying and what Perry was saying. It's really important as we go into the situation where layoffs are happening and all this stuff that's happening out here. You figure out, hey, how can I shrink down how much I'm spending? How can I put myself in position in order for us, my family, to win out here? Because there's no way that I could sit up here and allow myself to be exposed, completely exposed to having to pay a mortgage and have no salary and then ultimately defaulting and then just not being able to really go anywhere. You can't go into an expensive apartment. You have this high car payment. There's just a lot of things if you allow consumerism to really dictate your logic and your thinking, that's going to really draw down everything that you have going on. So without further ado, appreciate y'all for coming through. Take a look at Perry and Likely here on YouTube, and then take a look at The Intentional Millionaire. And I also suggested Women in Linux. Women in Linux really helps you with the tools. That's Women in Linux. It's a really good channel. On Saturdays, she does Tech Stocks and Jobs, where she talks about jobs and she talks about the finance space. Really, really good information. On Friday, she does Foolish Friday, where she talks about messy money out here in these streets. So take a look at that. But without further ado, appreciate y'all for coming through. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.